Howdy folks, hope you've all had a good weekend and welcome to another episode of Mingles with Jingles. Before we crack on, just a quick reminder that next week's Mingles with Jingles will be a recording of the Salt Mine Discord Q&A, which will be recorded live on Sunday next week at 11 AM UK time, whatever that is in your time zone. As always, the questions for the Q&A will be posted by Salt Mine Discord members, and I'll do my level best to get through as many of them as possible during the time available. The whole thing normally lasts about an hour. So that's next Sunday, the 4th of August. It's always the first Sunday in each month, 11 AM, British summertime, or whatever that is in your time zone. Hope to see you there, and if you can't make it there in person, the whole thing will be recorded and published as next Monday's episode of Mingles with Jingles. So this weekend was, well, it was a bit of a good news, bad news situation for me. I was supposed to be going up to Birmingham to see my friend Roy, the Jingles stunt double. It does actually look quite a bit like me, except he's taller and skinnier. And in preparation for being away for the weekend, I pulled double shifts all week, making 2 videos every day in order to pre-upload stuff to carry me all the way through to Monday. And then Thursday night, I got sick, and I was in no shape to go anywhere. So I had nothing to do the whole weekend. Well, it did allow me time to crack on with a bit more Horizon Forbidden West, and no spoilers here because a number of you are following the video series, but holy cow, the ending to... did not see that coming. And I do love it when the plot of the game pulls the rug out from under my feet in the way that Horizon Forbidden West did. But like I said, no spoilers. You're just going to have to follow my playthrough or play the game yourself. But wow. Let's just say the third game in the series, it's got a really tough act to follow. And they haven't announced the third game, but they'd be crazy not to make one. I mean, the first game did well enough that Sony commissioned a sequel, and the second game did well enough. I mean, it got rave reviews on the PlayStation and did well enough that they did the PC port that I've been playing, and it was just amazingly good. And again, no spoilers, but after that ending, they have got to make another game. It's just... I mean, both games made money, and where there's money, there's a sequel. You know, that's just the way the gaming business works. But these things take years to make. So, you know, when we're going to see a third game in the series is anybody's guess. It's like sitting around waiting for a new Game of Thrones book at this point. But suffice to say, when they make it, I will be buying it and playing it. But I did finish it earlier than I anticipated I was going to. Not because it's a short game or anything. I'm looking at my Steam stats and I have 115 hours played. You know, there's plenty of game in there, but it's one of those games that when I started playing, I just couldn't stop. And it never felt that I was playing just for the sake of it. By which I mean, well, you know what it's like when you play one of these Ubisoft open world games. And they're huge, they're massive, there's all kinds of stuff to do, but most of it just feels like busy work. You know, it's stuff that's in there just to keep you occupied. Stuff that you do because it's there, not because you really feel invested in it or you particularly want to. I never really got that feeling in Horizon Forbidden West. It was almost the exact opposite of how I feel when I'm playing one of these Ubisoft open world games, with the exception, the most notable exception going to be Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which had that compelling and captivating storyline as well. But typically when I'm playing a Ubisoft open world game, I will sit there for hours just playing. And then, wow, I've been sitting here for 8 hours, I should take a break, I should go and do something. And then I take a break and I go and do something, and I just can't be bothered playing again. You know, the next day, I'm not, right, let's see where the story leads. Because I wasn't really doing anything during the previous day's 8-hour marathon gaming session. I was just doing things, none of which were particularly interesting. I mean, the games are packed full of things to do, but they're just there to keep you busy. It's like Ubisoft have mastered the art of keeping you busy without necessarily keeping you invested. You know, they jam their games full of stuff to do. Chasing collectibles, completing challenges, doing hunting things, you know, just stuff. none of which are related to the story. So there's no real investment in doing any of this stuff. It's just stuff that's there. It's busy work. It's stuff to keep you occupied, to keep you at the computer for as long as possible. The downside of it all is, of course, once you've done it and you think, oh, wow, I've been sitting at the PC for 8 hours, there's no real compulsion for you to go back because you haven't been doing anything that matters. And that's where Guerrilla Games are different, because they've got all of this stuff in Horizon Forbidden West as well, the same way that they did in Horizon Zero Dawn, the first game. But it's all story related. Or if not directly related to the story, then it's all part of the world building. Like, for example, just one of the many things that you can collect are black boxes from downed aircraft from the Great War 1,000 years before the current events of the game. You know, you'll come across the wreck of a transport aircraft at the bottom of a lake somewhere or buried in a glacier or something. You think, well, how the hell did that get there? And if you find the black box and listen to the last recorded messages of the aircrew, you'll find out. And it all paints a picture of those final desperate days during the machine holocaust 1,000 years prior to the current events of the game. It's all part of the world building. Whereas when you play a Ubisoft open world game, generally speaking, I mean, you know, there's tons of stuff to collect, tons of stuff to do, but none of it really matters. You know, none of it tells a story, certainly not a memorable one. And it's all basically just there to keep you busy. Oh, I so can't wait for the third game in the series to come. Well, I'm going to have to wait, aren't I? These things aren't made overnight. More immediately, of course, this has presented me with something of a problem because I've now completed Horizon Forbidden West. And, well, the next game on my schedule, Star Wars Outlaws. Yep, a Ubisoft open world game. You never know, it might be good. That's not due out for another month. Fallout London to the rescue. This one came out, well, it didn't exactly come out of nowhere. I've had Fallout London on my radar for quite some time, but Fallout London was supposed to come out. By the way, in case you're curious, what exactly is Fallout London? No, it's not another Bethesda game. It's a 100% completely free, fan-made mod, I suppose. A total rework of Fallout 4, set in London. It's 100% free, and it was supposed to come out, I think, around about 6 months ago. It was on schedule for release. It was basically almost ready to go. And then Bethesda announced a next-gen patch for Fallout 4, which wrecked all of the existing and currently in development mods. And they announced this next-gen patch just a couple of weeks before Fallout London was due to come out. It's almost as if they deliberately sabotaged it. I mean, the timing was awfully suspicious. And yeah, I know. I mean, you don't produce a next-gen patch for Fallout 4 overnight. Clearly, they'd been tinkering away at it for a while. But I mean, they hadn't actually released a patch for Fallout 4 since 2019. And then 2 or 3 weeks before this massive, completely game-changing Fallout London mod is due to come out, bang! Like I say, the timing was awfully suspicious. But anyway, it put the release of Fallout London back by several months, but it's now out. So on the one hand, I've got something to do to bide me over until the inevitable disappointment that is going to be Star Wars Outlaws. But I'm kind of hesitant to start because, well, first a practical reason. It's unlikely to be 100% bug-free. Don't forget, it's a fan-made mod, essentially. And while the modders are responsible for correcting the majority of the egregious errors that Bethesda inflict on us every time they introduce a new game, you know, it's still not going to be 100% bug-free. But the other reason I'm hesitant to start playing, because at the time of sitting down and recording this episode of Mingles, I've downloaded it, I've installed it via the good old games launcher, which is by far the easiest way to play Fallout London. If you're thinking of giving it a shot, you will need to download and install Fallout 4 first, and then head over to the Good Old Games website. If you don't have an account there, then just make one. Download their game launcher for Fallout 4. It's the easiest way to get it all up and running. But I haven't actually started playing it yet. And the other reason why is because I know what I'm like with these games. Once I go down that rabbit hole, it takes a lot to get me back up again. I will be no good to anybody for days or weeks once I start getting into one of these games. which is a good thing, I suppose, but also I need to be productive. And I mean, I kind of had this issue with Horizon Forbidden West as well. Tearing myself away from that game for long enough to make a daily video took an effort of will. It's going to be the same with Fallout London. I mean, I suppose this is a nice problem to have, and I'm sure it's going to be good. I just need to make sure that I don't have anything else important to do at the point where I finally dip my toes into the Fallout London mod. Speaking of Star Wars Outlaws, though, after the lackluster gameplay reveal that Ubisoft themselves published about a month ago, that didn't show any of the open world features, which is kind of surprising considering that the fact that this is an open world Star Wars game is the game's unique selling point. Last week there was a leak, around about 13 minutes of video footage, as well as a couple of clips showing off space combat. And it looked all right. I mean, Ubisoft instantly shut down the video, but there are other versions of it if you know where to look. And it didn't look that bad. It looked better than the stuff that Ubisoft chose to show us in the reveal footage video a month ago, which was just really, really weird. Because the overwhelming reaction to the official Ubisoft reveal video was, as well as the whole, why are you not showing us any of the open world stuff in the first Star Wars open world game? But, you know, what they did show us was just kind of, But the stuff in this leaked video has actually been generating some quite positive reactions, with one comment on the game's subreddit being fairly typical of the overall response, saying, having just watched the leaked footage, I've gone from a skeptic to actually being pretty excited about this again. I've read a lot about them wanting this to feel cinematic and like an extension of the films, and this is the first time outside of early trailers I've got that vibe. So, yeah, it might be good. Ubisoft can make good games. They haven't done one for a while, but, you know, if they can be persuaded to give a shit, they are actually capable of making a good game. And like I said in last week's episode, Star Wars Outlaws doesn't have to be great. I mean, I'm not expecting Horizon Forbidden West here, because it is Ubisoft after all. It just doesn't have to suck. If they can just do that, I'll be reasonably happy. Anyway, fingers crossed. Star Wars Outlaws. Still on schedule for an August 30th release. In other news, and honestly this one's just hilarious. So this is related to Fallout. This is related to Fortnite. Yeah, I know. I don't play Fortnite. I suspect most of you probably don't either, because most of you aren't 12. But I'm sure you're all aware, like me, that Fallout exists and is very, very popular, even if you don't play it. And like a lot of popular games, they have collaborations, promotions, tie-ins with other products. And recently, one of those products was Tesla's Cybertruck. No, I don't see the connection either, but hey, if you can have Nicki Minaj as a playable character in Call of Duty, I mean, yeah, anything's possible. So, anyway, what's all the fuss? What's so funny about this? Well, it's not so much the fact that you can drive a Tesla Cybertruck in Fortnite, although that is kind of amusing just by itself. I mean, don't forget, this is a vehicle that has managed to get 4 recalls in 7 months imposed upon it by the USA's National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. I mean, this is a vehicle that's earned itself a reputation as a $70,000 price tag attached to a mass of mechanical failures and public safety hazards. So you should probably expect some amount of backlash if you decide to include it in a video game. And oh boy, there has been some backlash. And this is the funny part. It's not easy to unite the Fortnite community, but Tesla's Cybertruck has managed to do it in a way that is just both spectacular and hilarious. Let me read you some tweets from Fortnite players that describe far, far better than I could exactly what the reaction has been. Caius with a K said on Twitter, and yes, I'm still calling it Twitter, I refuse to call it X, said, with 299 replies by the way, there's an unspoken rule amongst a lot of players that they will drop whatever they're doing to force a Cybertruck user back to the lobby. It is your civic duty to uphold this honour code. Dawn Yarn also said, I propose a new Fortnite rule. If you see someone in a Cybertruck, you are now in a truce with everyone else in the lobby until they're taken out. This repeats as many times as necessary Until everyone that bought this stupid thing is gone, normal gameplay proceeds. The thing is, it's not just Fortnite players who are all uniting to cleanse each game lobby of anybody driving a cybertruck around. Some of the game's own developers are getting in on the action as well. Two of Fortnite's producers, Robbie Williams and Kyle Wynn, have also made their opinions very, very clear, with Reckon Robbie also saying destroy on sight, and Kyle Wynn giving a slightly more lengthy response. And I quote, "Reminder, 1. Voting with your wallet works and sentiment on social media is a tangible factor. 2. Companies are composed of lots of different people with their own unique opinions. 3. That truck looks fucking silly and the CEO of that company is a piece of shit. Also, yeah, hard focus on sight." I mean, stop sitting on the fence, Kyle. Why don't you just tell us how you feel? So, yeah. So, yeah. I mean, if you do play Fortnite, and I realise probably almost none of you do, but on the off chance that some of you do play Fortnite, don't buy a Cybertruck. Which is good advice for when it comes to the real thing too. While we're on the subject of game tie-ins, it might have escaped your attention, but there are actually a couple of fairly major game movies due out this year, with one of them, I think, only about 2 weeks away from release. I'm talking about the Borderlands movie. Lionsgate just released another trailer. It's not looking good. It's not looking good at all. There are a couple of issues that fans have with this upcoming Borderlands movie. I mean, the casting is just one of them. The movie stars, amongst other things, Cate Blanchett as Lilith the Siren. Now, I don't have a problem with Cate Blanchett. She's a really good actress. I mean, you know, she's an Oscar-winning actress. And this sort of thing isn't entirely outside of her wheelhouse. I mean, she played the villain in one of the Marvel superhero, I can't remember which one, Thor, one of the, whatever. She's done this sort of thing before, so that's fine. And then you've got Kevin Hart cast as Roland the Soldier. Now, I like Kevin Hart. I think he's really funny. He does great stand-up. And when you cast him in the right movie, he's hilarious. He's done a couple of movies with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and you know, none of those movies are going to win any Oscars, but they're really funny. There's some great chemistry between the two of them. With, you know, cast in the right role, he can be really, really funny. And they've cast him as Roland, the soldier character from Borderlands. Just in case you're not familiar with Borderlands, Roland is not the comic relief, all right? He's probably the most serious character in the game. The comic relief is Claptrap and Tiny Tina. Why would you cast Kevin Hart as Roland? Have any of the people producing this movie actually seen the game upon which it's based? I suspect probably not, because what they're doing with the Tiny Tina character is they're turning her into some kind of chosen one. She's the only one who can open a vault. But that's what Cate Blanchett's character, Lilith the Siren, is. The Sirens are the only ones who can open vaults. Nobody involved in producing this movie has the faintest idea what they're doing. They've got no knowledge whatsoever of the game upon which this movie is supposed to be based. They've just gone straight to the big Hollywood book of cliches, and that's their playbook. And it does show from the trailer, which has led to the comment section of the trailer on YouTube being littered with gems such as, "Congratulations, the first movie in 20 years to go straight to VHS." I did say that there was another big, well, relatively big, game movie tie-in coming out soon, and that, of course, is the BioShock movie being produced by Netflix. And there's some bad news to go with that as well, because Netflix have just slashed the budget. Now, this could end up being a blessing in disguise, because if the movie's had its budget cut, which it has, this is going to necessitate, well, either one of two things are going to happen. So let me just lay out the options for you. Either they're going to have to cut back on the production values, and rather than trying to do a big extravagant game tie-in movie in the same way that Lionsgate are clearly trying to do with Borderlands, they're going to have to not rely on big action set pieces, for example, in order to try to get bums on seats in movie theatres. And instead, they'll have to scale it back and just focus more on the story, which is what made BioShock great. So that's option number one. And I really do hope that that's the option that they go for, and why this could actually be a blessing in disguise. But there is always option number two, which is to still try to make a big, extravagant movie full of action set pieces, except try to do it on the cheap because your budget's been slashed, and have it look completely arse. Now, which of those two options do you think Netflix is going to go for? Yeah, I mean, you never know. It could still be option number one. We might actually end up with a Bioshock movie that's actually interesting and thought-provoking, rather than something that's just big, dumb, stupid, cheap, and looks like utter shit. But even if they do go for option two, based on the evidence of the latest trailer, there's a better than even chance that it might end up actually being better than the Borderlands movie. And on that thoroughly depressing note, that is it for this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles. Don't forget the Salt Mine Discord Q&A next week. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope it's given you something to think about and perhaps something to talk about in the comments. And as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.